how to combine modern mental conditioning with ancient meditation techniques and chaos magic. My name is Daniel Domoracki, I am a willpower coach, and in today's video we're going to talk about how to combine esoteric techniques with modern psychology. So first of all, what is mental conditioning? Well, mental conditioning is just like physical conditioning, but it trains your brain instead of training your body. So for instance, athletes, they try to get stronger, faster, more agile, and so on. It's pretty much the same process, but you're trying to train your mind and train your brain. So it's the process of conditioning your mind to improve your performance in various tasks. Those tasks can aid you in realizing your business and professional goals. Some examples of mental conditioning training include, for instance, stress resilience techniques, cognitive training, and other techniques that allow you to increase, for instance, your attentional control, meaning you will get more focused and less distracted. Long story short, mental conditioning is all about improving your mental performance. So whatever technique you find, whatever method you use, if it's going to help you optimize your mental performance and do more work in less time or with less effort, it's pretty much useful. Now the question arises, why the fuck would I combine modern mental conditioning, which is a psychological method, with chaos magic, which is an occult method? And here comes the explanation. Chaos magic is a modern occult system that allows their practitioners to control their minds with whatever techniques they find useful. This means that chaos magic borrows from other systems and from other occult and esoteric traditions. However, it's not limited by any beliefs, meaning it can also borrow from psychology. The point is now that some of the chaos magic techniques rely purely on psychology. For example, sigilization. This technique involves engraving a symbol into adept's subconscious mind. It involves creating a symbol that resembles a certain desire or intent and using psychological techniques to implement the symbol in the adept's mind. After doing so, the symbol will interact with the adept's subconscious mind, also called the deep mind. It will influence their actions, behaviors, thoughts, and emotions, meaning you can program yourself using chaos magic techniques to think, feel, and behave in a certain way. And just because it's called magic, it doesn't mean it's useless. And even though most people perceive any occult or esoteric methods and techniques as something supernatural or spiritual, it has a lot to do with human psychology. And by knowing this fact, you can use this to your own advantage. As another example, let's take servitors. So, some people believe there are actual spiritual beings created by a mage to perform a certain task. But from a psychological perspective, they are simply mental constructs or mental programs or semi-conscious thought forms that were created to aid the adept in realizing certain goals. They can serve, for example, as reminders that remind you that you should not smoke cigarettes, or that you should stop drinking so much beer, or that you should simply move your ass and go to the gym every single Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. Servitors are thoughts that were programmed using a few to several instructions that were supposed to remind you to act in a certain way. So even if you don't believe in spirits, energy, and so on, you can still use chaos magic techniques to program your behavior and increase your chance of succeeding. Another technique is simple visualization. So it takes into account all those mental journeys, shamanic journeys, and so on. Even trips performed under the guidance of psychedelic substances. However, if you learn how to control your mind without any substances or without relying on other external factors, you can truly program it and make yourself think, feel, and behave in a certain way. Modern science has already proven that our brain doesn't recognize the truth from the fiction. As long as you can see it with your mind's eye, as long as you believe in what you see, it becomes your own reality, your inner reality. It's pretty much the same thing that other occult and esoteric traditions were denoting as the microcosm. So long story short, whatever your paradigm is, whatever your reality model is, as long as you believe in it, it's going to influence your emotions, your thoughts, and your behavior. And if you learn how to control it, you can use it to your own advantage. Now let's take a sports person as an example. So many fighters, boxers, or other athletes include visualization and meditation techniques in their repertoire. What they do is, before an important match or game, they visualize themselves succeeding. It's actually called sports visualization. They pretty much perform mental imagery training by imagining themselves performing certain actions to increase their chance of winning in the game. It improves psychological resilience and also mental toughness, as well as increases motivation. So if it's able to affect your mood, and we all know that your mood can affect your game, then it pretty much means that it's fucking useful. It's the same story with traders, investors, and other entrepreneurs. So, for instance, let's take a managing director of a big company as an example. Let's say this person gets very nervous and frustrated during every single business meeting because they could be shy, for example, and they don't like when other people make fun of them. However, exposing themselves publicly during the meeting and being perceived as weak units, what they can do is they can use mental conditioning techniques that include chaos magic techniques to influence their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, as mentioned previously. So, for example, such a person can use association technique to create a specific trigger that triggers a specific reaction in their body, not only psychologically, but also physiologically. So, for example, if they create a sigil and then meditate while visualizing the sigil and perform a specific hand gesture, that could be anything, such as Kujikiri sign or even a mudra known from yoga, for example. So what we're doing here is we're using ancient occult methods that were already described and proven to be effective by modern psychology, and we're using them to our advantage. We are not concerned about what other people might think of them. We are only concerned whether they are effective or not. And to take a step further, let's take a demonic invocation as an example. Let's say we're invoking a certain entity. I know that it sounds esoteric and occult, and actually it is. From a psychological perspective, whenever you start thinking or reading about a certain concept, you also start developing an idea of it within your own microcosm, that is, within your own mind. This, taken further, means that you can summon that idea, that is, recall that concept within your mind by simply focusing on it. So what happens in your brain is that you're creating a certain mental state. You're also creating a certain idea, and then you're assigning it to a specific name. Then, while you perform a certain magical ritual, what you're actually doing is you're calling upon the concept that already exists within your mind, and you're temporarily changing your personality, which obviously allows you to make desired changes permanently. So while some people might call it summoning a demon, I prefer to call it calling upon an archetype that already exists within your own mind. It's nothing more than recalling upon a memory, except this memory, it's being given a specific name. It's almost like programming your inner operating system, except instead of using a computer, you are using your own mind. So you are calling upon a function, and this function does something specific. It pretty much performs a set of instructions. And I'm telling you that because even though I have an occult background, I also work with people that prefer psychological explanations and are somewhat skeptical. So my goal here is to be able to adapt any magical system to one's beliefs. So whenever I meet with an athlete, entrepreneur, or even trader, I want to adjust those techniques so they work with those people. My goal is purely to be able to empower them to use the power of their own mind to improve their mental performance and therefore their success in life, business, and sports. So there you have it. Not as mystical or magical as you initially thought so, huh? That's good, because our only goal is to improve our performance in real life situations. I do respect religions, I do respect traditions, I do respect mysticism, but I'm not interested in bullshit that doesn't work and has no practical uses in everyday life. So here is my definition of mental conditioning for chaos magic. It simply serves as a way to condition your own mind, and it's a very practical way.